was the road repair. You mash up all the roads. It's all the roads, north, south, east, and west, mash up because you close down Guaracara refinery. So we can't get bitumen, and you're getting a lower quality bitumen to pave the roads. And now you're forming $100 million company with 3 tiers in the system to repair the roads. Why was that necessary? And why are you, and I heard them clapping him. Why are you clapping you? In other words, you cause a mess and now you're trying to clean it up and you've been praised for that. So the Lake Asphalt situation, you know, that is declined by 56% their return, their revenue. Up to now, they won't answer ProMan. And what I noted too, with regard to the helping out, which is just saying, helping out businesses, he more or less focused on small and medium-sized businesses. And that sounds good on paper until you realize, what about the micro business? Why? Because he did mention it, but not very in passant, not as a main thing. The focus was on small and medium. But for the public to know, a micro business in Trinidad and Tobago is a business that employs up to 25 people and grosses $5 million a year. That's a micro business. And a small business is up to 50 people and 10 million. Now, who you think living on the subsidies? Who you think living on the ones who have 25 employees and making $5 million a year? You needed to focus your attention on taking these people off the subsidies, and he did not do a good job. He went into detail until, oh God, I thought he would not stop with the what they're doing with the oil discoveries, oil this and this and this. All of that is how many times have we heard that? You know, tomorrow morning, if price of oil and gas drop, those same Shell and BP, they want to tell you sayonara, like they were going to do before COVID-19. You remember they were running out of town because their shareholders are not Trinidadians. Their shareholders are not in the business of propping up so-called third world countries, right? So all those plans of all of that, I mean, it's all, you know, when it happens, it happens. And guess what? With the history of this government's ability to implement, I'm not holding my breath. And you cannot trust them. Why do I say that? I say it all the time. I was listening today to America. They were talking about the economy. And they were saying that the good news was that consumer confidence is coming back. And they're saying consumer confidence is critical for sustained growth because it means people are willing to spend their money and so on. Well, based on the fact that our inflation rate is so low, except for food, which is really 8% year on year. From last year, it went to 8%. But if you go back, I'm sure and it depends on the product, cheese, oil, rice, sugar. I wonder what those prices are really now. They must be 30, 40% what they were a year ago, right? And when you have a minister of energy being asked, as I said, 7 years you got the budget numbers wrong on production. Production is everything. Production in 2014 was 4.1 MMBTU in natural gas. Today it hovers at 2.5. Where's the gas? And you say you're going and put all this natural gas down in the Port Lisa's industrial estate for ammonia. That is the feedstock. Natural gas is the feedstock for the Port Lisa's industrial estate. I mean, I don't know. And when he asked you that, you said, well, it was before, but now I have a new minister. So what are you saying? And then when your Minister of Energy went on CNN and said trade war was alive and well, until the Prime Minister, after a whole year and 225 million, I think, US being spent, had to come and say it dead. What are you supposed to say about that? What are you supposed to say about AV drilling when they don't want to go to court? And instead of fighting for the 800 million, the man was AV drilling. Your friend, Mr. Bash, your good friend, you had to admit he was your friend and financier. You don't want to go to court in spite of the advice you're given. What are you saying about ProMan? Up to now, I want the Prime Minister to say what is our position with ProMan, because right now, we through CL and Clico should own 51% of ProMan between Clico and CL Financial. So I've given you an indication that I don't think that he really dealt seriously with the diversification. It was scattershot. I think he was mostly concerned about telling you how he was going to grow the energy sector and diversify into it, and that the supplemental petroleum tax, he was going to ease it up, not only for onshore, but offshore shallow rounds, so that it would increase and incentivize investors in natural gas. I think that was the takeaway. The thing with the fuel, LPG kept it at the same rate because it's domestic use. That was correct. But when you look at diesel, it's a bit misleading, because up to 2015, per liter of diesel was 150 or something like that. Now it's 441. It's more than nearly triple the cost of a few years ago. And he himself said that the reason he was doing that is because transportation is how most poor people get around and how you move goods. And so if that diesel price was supposed to assist people, it is at added 50 cents to it, 491. I don't know that it's going to do that. He also said he's giving you $500 more to ease up for tax purposes, tax exempt purposes. What is $500 going to do? It might help you a little bit in the grocery, but it's not going to do what he said it's going to do, which is to incentivize and to increase expenditure. And with increase in expenditure, you will have growth happening. No, he should go to the Exchequer in London, even if he hasn't gotten it completely right. The fact of the matter, he should try to look at growing the economy. The inflation is not our problem because there's no consumer confidence, but the inflation is a problem with food, and it's a big problem for poor people. And he should have concentrated on taking people off subsidies and making a micro entrepreneur, which is the ones that are on subsidies, in the agro and agricultural business, the agro-industry business, and the cultural tourism business, to really have those ministries really focus. How much money he gave to agriculture? 1 billion. So that tells you how much. But he said there's some more for them. I can't remember how, 500 million. I don't know how much he said is to tourism. So it's the same old, same old. That's what everybody said, you know. So those were the highlights that I think the SPT, Special Supplemental Petroleum Tax, to incentivize the international investors, the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. He said he had put the money in, and everything he said he's going to do is all going to be done next year. Everything's going to happen. And he is not increasing the taxes. The increase in salary more than 4%. So, and he is putting a fixed amount on the fuel subsidy at 1 billion, no matter where it goes. So that's what he said. So I think I dealt with most of the issues, and I think that he has not said anything more than they have said in the past, and he has certainly not shown us on a road to growth and to take people off of subsidies. Is that all right with you, Richard, Noray?
Yes,
Or was it like you were in class again and the lecturer would not stop?
No. The lecture was doing quite well, Karen, and I'm certain all our listeners were very pleased. The one thing that is common with all economists and everyone who speaks about this budget is that it's the same old, nothing new. What did he say he accomplished last year that he was able to present this year, Karen?
That's what people have said too. Exactly that point.
So he wasn't able to show. A budget is also a report, you know. You report it. You come in to report on what you set out to do last time. You know that. And you come in to say now if you accomplish all of it or how much of it and what you intend to do this time to accomplish the rest of it. So we promised to do this last year. We weren't able to do the entire thing, but we got this far. This year we proposed to do X and Y's, and it will be completed by so and so time. I was looking out for that part of the budget. I didn't hear that, which means you'd have been telling me some of the things that you set out to do, you were able to accomplish them. Now, the year before last year, when he presented the budget, again, he failed to say what he accomplished. But he told you what he was going to do the next year. The year before that, he told us what he was going to do, but he did not report on what he accomplished. Now, if we were to go with that, what is the likelihood of anything that he's promising now that those things would be implemented? It is zero. In probabilistic terms, it is zero, not even close to zero, based on his own track record. So what we know now, he spent 4 hours. I know you said he had confidence. I heard him, this was his 8th budget, yeah? I want to put it on record today, that was the worst presentation he has ever made. I'll repeat that. It was the worst presentation he has. Finance minister has ever made. It was long. I don't know what's going on with him and his speech. Something happening with him, like he losing, a lot of errors, a lot of mispronunciations. He was trying to talk in a sort of a monotone, you know, like I could sit down here comfortably, stand up here and just talk this through. But I don't think he came across the way he wanted to come across or he hoped to have come across. He didn't. I think it was a major flop. It was boring. Let me tell you something. I sleep so many times. The only thing kept me up is because I had to do the show, you know. You know how much time I listen, I break 2 cups. I want to repeat it. 2 cups. I had a teacup. It fell out my hand when I was sleeping. And the minister 3 times. He's owing me money. And
I believe you. I believe you.
Moved that happened at 13 minutes past 2. I said, well, what the hell? Honestly,
how did you say what the hell?
I cleaned up the thing. I went and I made another cup. I went and I made another cup. You know, at 3:11, I break the second one. I said, no.
You're not lying, you know. You're really true.
I went to the treadmill and started exercising.
Look how you made the exercise. You see?
Foolishness.
You didn't want to exercise all along.
He did.
You get just so frustrated when you exercise.
Your audio.
But I tell you, it was hard. It was a difficult guy, and how we talking and how we sounding. I said, how we reach here, Father? Who is he talking to? The people at Trinidad and Tobago, boy? I mean, come on, we crazy.
I will have to be honest with you. 2 things I want to say. 3 things I will say.
You go on, Karen. You go on.
3, because you're breaking up a little bit. I'll tell you thing. You are right. I said, when is he going to stop? When is he going to? I walk out the room. I said, I feel like I'm going crazy. This man is just going on and on and on. And the same points he would have made earlier about what he was going to do. I think I can't remember what it was on because he got me so tired. But I know some of the points he made earlier on when he was now talking about the fiscal measures and what he came back and talked about it again. And then he spent an inordinate amount, and his 2 ministers that were on the show with me, I think they all decided that the blame for the last 7 years is COVID. But as the opposition leader, they say, I have to agree with her. So what happened to 2016? What happened to 2017? What happened to 2018? What happened to 2019? What happened? You're going to blame all of those years. And then what I showed them, which was very interesting because I went and did my research, and I was even surprised. I have it with me here, actually. I said, this year, I noticed he didn't talk nominal GDP, which is because he's realized that everybody's saying, stop talking normal, talk real GDP, because when you talk real GDP, which is the value of goods and services produced in our fiscal year, taking into account the impact of inflation on those goods and services. So if the goods and services last year cost X a price, and that's why, and therefore you made X amount of money, if this year you made much more, but the much more you make is because the price of those same goods went up, you have not grown the economy and you have produced nothing. And that's what real GDP will tell you. All right. And he did use the real GDP, but I'm glad he used the real GDP because he had to go and cherry pick all over the world. Oh, and I have to talk, it's a Standard and Poor's too. He had to go and cherry pick all over the world to find out countries where the real GDP was much worse than us. He talked about Colombia, he called all kind of countries. So the point being is you're much better off. But you know what he didn't call? You know which country he didn't call? The country that they love to hate the most, Barbados. Because our ladies make them look so bad. And Barbados, this is the macro economic indicators for real GDP. I'm not going to go right back. I'm going to go 2020. When everybody was suffering from the COVID, the growth path, real GDP growth was negative 14. 2021, 0.7. You know what it is in 2022? Positive 10.5. The Eastern Caribbean community in 2020, negative 14. In 2021, 0.7. And in 2022, 10.5. With Ghana is a complete outlier because when the whole world suffering, they were making money like peas. So in 2020, their GDP was 14.35, and in 2021, it was 19.9, and we don't have it for 2022. Jamaica, 2020, it was negative 10 GDP, real GDP, which is the growth one we're looking at, growth and production. 2021, 4.4, and 2022, 6.4. And that is the story of countries that are dependent on tourism. That is why their numbers fell so drastically, particularly because with COVID-19, the travel and cruise ships and everything had shut down. And yet, in a short period of time, they were able to make that growth. Why we cannot do it when we are the beneficiaries of energy, ammonia, urea, methanol, LNG. Why are we in a position that he still is telling us that we have a fiscal deficit? And to be fair to him, all the international, this is what the IMF and World Bank have been saying, that because of the geopolitical warfare with Ukraine, they just blew up a gas line. It's not funny. A gas line from Russia to, well, I shouldn't say they just blew it up, but it is blown up from Russia to Germany, because they're not admitting that they did it. 2 gas lines. But the point about it is that we, of all countries, are blessed with LNG. LNG is like a big deal now because more and more countries, while they try to find a solution, an alternative to pipeline, they're trying to take the gas by these LNG ships, which are specially outfitted, and LNG platforms that are specially outfitted. And by the way, the Minister of Energy went on CNN and said Train 1 wasn't closed. And it took a year for the Prime Minister to say it was finally closed. So to be fair, the IMF and the World Bank have reduced the potential growth for most countries based on the supply chain issues and, of course, the energy crisis, as well as the war in Ukraine and Russia and all those factors. They have reduced the growth expectation. But even though they had said it was going to be 5%, he says it's going to be 2%. Some people say it might be lucky to get 1%. But look at where Barbados, and you know why Barbados is doing that well? And then we look at reserves. Now, it is true, so don't want to say I'm misleading. When you look at reserves, it is based obviously on the size of the population and the amount you imported. And clearly, Trinidad with a population of 1.3x is going to import more have to have more import cover to cover a month, as opposed to Barbados with a smaller population, maybe 1/3 of our population, or even less than that. Obviously, what they will need for their import cover is going to be less in terms of months. But having said that, when we look at the monthly reserves, Barbados in 2016 only had 1.9 months of import cover. By 2020, they 9.4. By 2021, 10.9 months of import cover. Jamaica going to 6.1 months of import cover. Trinidad went from over $11 billion or 8.5 months of import cover to 6.8 in July of this year, according to the central bank fiscal bulletin or economic bulletin, whichever one it is. And he's not saying the reason why it is, yes, all of us got special drawing rights from the World Bank, but he's not also saying he went 7 times into the HSF to prop up the foreign exchange reserves, and he also issued a bond on the market in order to prop up the foreign exchange reserves. It's not, in other words, it's not foreign exchange reserves that we have earned by export. And as I am saying that, he was boast. I mean, he's just so shameful. I'm sorry. He can get mad with me, but he really looks for a lot of the criticism. He was boasting about, oh, well, now Standard & Poor's, we are investment grade, and for the first time in how many 15 years, we've had a change from an upgrade, upgrade. I think he said from where we were negative to stable, but he forgot to tell the country that we were A- up to a few years ago, and BBB is 1 grade above junk bond status. And the change was they moved us from negative to stable because of the amount of oil and gas prices that we are seeing. That's why, and he gave the impression as if Standard & Poor's are so wonderfully, they're so satisfied with us. 1 grade above junk bond, that's what we are. And yet he wants to make it seem as though they are doing this fabulous job. And he doesn't want to say to you, and the other thing I found very misleading, and I'm saying this to the national community, you know, very misleading. He himself has admitted time and time again, when he talks in his budget, he bases the non-energy sectors take or contribution to revenue based on how well, understandably, the energy sector does. So there's a correlation, not only a correlation, there is it's not only a linkage, they are twin to each other. So if you see the energy sector giving that significant increase in performance, one would expect that the non-energy sector would be booming. Now, in the non-energy sector, they are negative 5% in growth. They fell, their growth fell by negative 5%. And when they want to boast to you that how well the non-energy sector and the manufacturing sector is doing, let me give you some of the facts they don't want to give you. And by the way, in giving the facts, he forgot to tell us that what he anticipated to be the income tax return fell by many billions of dollars less than he anticipated, which means that a lot of people are working for less than $7,000 a year, a month, because that's only after you reach $7,000 a month that you start to pay income tax. So that should give you an idea how many people are underemployed and suffering. That's why they don't want to give you the National Statistical Institute so you can start doing the maths and adding up for yourself, you know. And the VAT refunds that he anticipated fell billions of dollars below what he anticipated, which means that the businesses are not doing as well, and therefore the economy is not doing as well as he wants you to believe. And if you doubted that, when they were speaking about how wonderfully the manufacturing sector is rallying, let me give you, and that I got from actually, I hope I can call her name because she published it in the paper, so she shouldn't mind me referencing it. Asha Javich did an article and she was talking about exactly oh yeah, I have it here. So also too, Q1 of 2022, Q1 of 2022, we made a decline by -4% from Q1 of 2021. So that is why people are having a problem to see if whether we can, in a fiscal year which ends by October the 1st, should end at the end of September, how are you going to make such a huge change in the GDP numbers, the growth numbers, when in Q1 of 2022, you were 4% in decline to Q1 of 2021. But apart from that, let me tell you, the contraction in the non-energy sector was -5.2. And according to my figures, which I took both from the central bank and the article, asphalt a -56%, petroleum support services a -46.7%, crude oil export and exploration -5.2%. He keeps talking about crude oil in the I don't know if he said the 80 barrels a day. I don't want to say that he said that. I might be wrong. He may have said 70, but it's hovering around 58, and if they're lucky, 61. All right. Manufacturing of petrochemicals -51.1%. That, and then wholesale trade -22.4%. Retail trade -13.9%. Sale of vehicles -1.7%. You know what helped to make it up? What helped to make it up was the food, beverage, and tobacco by 8.9% and transport and storage by 5.6%. But what I wanted, and it was also offset by LNG prices of 12.1%. But what I want to say about the manufacturing sector, the food, beverage, and tobacco, I may be wrong, and I am subject to being corrected. But I am not aware of anywhere in Trinidad that they grow tobacco. I am not aware of anywhere in Trinidad they grow red beans. I am not aware of anywhere in Trinidad they grow black beans, bachelor baked beans. I am not aware of anywhere that they're growing these things. I'm not aware. So when I'm not aware, I then tell myself, why the minister said, and understandably, on the face of it, why he will not devalue, because he understands that if he were to have devalue, the same manufacturing sector that is doing so well, what they're doing is canning those products that they're bringing in from abroad. They're bringing in they bring in anything they put in the tin, and they bring in anything that they put anything in, and they're bringing in everything, and then they're telling you to manufacture in Trinidad, right? That's what they're telling you. So when they tell you about
they are packaging and labeling.
I'm not of the THA, yeah? They're not of the THA assemblyman characteristics, but they are assemblymen.
Yes, they are assemblymen. And you would tell me the minister is unaware of that? If you import in the tin, if you're going to import the tin, you're going to put the baked beans in, and
which are bought in the baked beans, huh?
You brought in the baked beans. All you are doing is hiring people to make, and I'm sure it's a machine putting the baked beans into the tin to maintain the volume or the quantity that would go in there, right? And then they put their own label on it, and they call themselves manufacturers.
Yeah, but let us not be, no, you know that.
You're right. That's what they call assembling. One time a person did a computer for me. And he told me this big computer.
Remember Amar?
Yeah.
Remember Amar with the assembly?
With the Toyotas?
Yes, remember?
Yeah. So, and they tell you they're making these things, but no, they're just assembling them.
But they're manufacturing. And
they call it manufacturing is where the conversion of taking the extractive material from the extractive industry, which will be the raw material, and then you convert it into the secondary production level,
Exactly.
There's a
Lord.
value added, which you can now say you have made something, and then you go to the tertiary level where you market what you have made and say, here it is for sale.
You think that's what they do? You think that's what they do in America?
No, in America, they
no, that's what I'm being sarcastic. In America, they do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So when they say they manufacturing,
they manufacture. They
what I call manufacturing.
And send it through and make a door for a car. The mold with the computer aided design, the door comes out the same way as they design it, and then they have someone in the assembly line will put on the Toyota door and they show you everything. And
they don't do that anymore, eh? They do that. But
I just showing you how deep they go in manufacturing. When they say they're making something, it's really made in America. When China made something, it's really made in China.
You know that?
The baked beans is really from China. We just put our label on it.
But you
and
know
then
what?
They stand up and talk about the performance of the assembly industry. I mean, the manufacturing industry. You call them the assemblyman. I say the assembly industry. And then they call, I mean, it's fake. It's all fake. It's all fake, Karen. The people of this country have been served a meal and been placed on a diet of deception. It's poor.
Love that. That is good talk. Good talk.
No, yes, that's
now we can't condemn everyone, eh? Because we cannot be seen, and I certainly don't want to be seen as Debbie Downer. But I don't be deceptive, and do not fool people. Be honest. Tell me what you mean when you say manufacture. And tell me why the Prime Minister of Finance says he cannot devalue, because if he were to devalue, there are a number of consequences. He didn't go into them, but other economists have over time have said, if he were to do it, the cost of the product, the goods that we're using to manufacture the products will push up the price of the goods and make them, you wouldn't be able to compete. Now,
but have no manufacturing industry again. I mean, the assembly industry will be wiped out. It will be wiped out. And so when it comes to present a budget, he can't talk about that sector anymore because he would have killed them.
And Richard, it reminds me. Now, I did not read the new Chancellor of England's speech and so on, but I did hear, the measures that time alone will tell if they work. But what that is what a Minister of Finance hopefully does with his whole budget. He has a whole floor of technicians to advise. Sitting now in a little room. I don't know if he did that, but I would advise against it. But in any event, the point about it is that what he did, and it remains to be seen, because I think a lot of it is a little bit of racism there, because you know that he's Nigerian, originally born in England, went to Eton, which is the top public school in England. When they say public, it's the opposite of what we mean when we say public, as you know. It's where all the kings and all the princes and Prince Harry and all of them, they all Eton, that's the school. And then they go on to Cambridge or Oxford. Really, Oxford is the school. So he has all the credentials and so on. So they can't touch him for that. But I think there's a little bit of resentment to him, but he came with a suite of policies to try and turn around the economy in England. He talked about the galloping inflation of 10%. So what is causing that inflation? He recognizes the energy and food is causing most of it, and the geopolitical fight that's going on and other things. So how do you manage that inflation? One of the ways he's trying to manage that inflation, well, two ways. One, by trying to grow the economy. How is he trying to grow the economy? Ease of doing business. In other words, taking out some of the steps that would be required to start a business or to move from X point. So instead of having seven steps, make it 2 steps. So you make it easier for people to invest and for the economy to go to offset the effect of the inflation. At the same time, the equivalent of the central bank in England has raised a little bit the interest rate. Why? One, so if you go and save money in the bank, now you're getting more interest than you did. So it's encouraging investment and saving. And at the same time, it's not raising it too much that you go on a spending spree. So it's a balance, it's a delicate. One thing I would say to Mr. Dukaran's, to give Mr. Dukaran his the word is escaping me, but it is a positive one, to say that I will say that when he taught me, and when I was doing my MBA, he taught us international economics. And I know that he did a good job, because he always said, you're always trying to get the economy into equilibrium. And it's not an easy thing. You have one major task is to keep inflation down, because inflation, even if you're making $1,000, which sounded good 10 years ago, that $1,000 is not worth anything, because its purchasing power is like if you're making $3. They did a thing on Lebanon. I was watching on Lebanon. They said people are actually holding up the bank to get their savings out of the bank. The banks closed down. They said the salaries that were paid, $800 that the public servants were getting, because the lira has devalued by 95% in Lebanon, their salary is worth $30 US. $30. So never underestimate the impact of inflation, because inflation erodes and eats away at your purchasing power. And so it's a delicate dance that one has to make. And what I did not see from our government, you did not see that sort of thoughtful approach. In fact, he spent so much time telling me about COVID. I felt like COVID. I mean, COVID. You can't, how long, if you go back, I mean, maybe just listening to him, I said, when is he going to stop talking about COVID? When? And he keep on with the COVID talk. You know why? Because they want to blame their lack of performance for 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 on COVID. When I was on the show with them yesterday, they're talking COVID too. I don't even hear those other countries. Those other countries don't even talk about COVID.
They don't, because it was.
You don't even hear them talk about COVID.
The world was a part of it. COVID, we have defeated it virtually now.
My Lord, yeah, but it's COVID.
And you move forward, you push it. Look at the guy who's running to be president.
But all they want to talk about is COVID.
No, because that, you see, they believe they can score a little point there. But they brought the vaccine in late. Barbados had to send vaccine for us. America sent 80 for us. I mean, they had people rushing for it here.
You can't remember.
Early on, there 4,000 people who died. We might have saved 2,000. I mean, no,
but I can't going to give them too harsh for the cocaine now. That was a Freudian slip. The COVID, I wouldn't be too hard on him, because at the end of the day, he did the right thing. But I will remember when Paul Mia Motley come and say, here, I get some from India. I know you didn't get, vaccine. Here, take these, have it. He said, what do you think, we are beggars? That is statesmanship for you. You're not hearing you, You're off.
Richard, your mic is muted.
How long it was muted? Come on, I was talking for so long.
No, you just down.
It just went off.
You know what, David, mute you so that I can make my point.
Daddy back, you did that.
You better look out for David, Watch out,
Daddy Mac is one of the country's most decent and balanced fellas. Daddy Mac.
Don't worry to try and buy. Don't try to suck up to him.
So in other words, encourage him to mute.
No, he did not. I mean, not stop making joke. He did not. It just happened. But go ahead.
Yeah. Let me say this. You must run a budget when your team know you all flop. You all were defeated. You had nothing to present to the country. What happened yesterday that informed you that they volunteered to us that they flopped? You pick it up?
You know what? I know.
Well, let me tell all you. Look at budget 1 to 7, and then look at budget 8. The post-budget conversation. Something happened that never happened before. Last night they put out a battery of ministers all over, and like they give them one script. Whenever I get in my talk COVID, talk the pressure we went through, what you doing and what we did. You dominated, put people
That's
to
true.
sleep. They went on the show to put people to sleep too, you know. I
It's
said,
true, it's true.
It's like it's a batchak attack.
True.
I couldn't do this. You don't want
It's
the other
true.
people to talk.
It's
I said,
true.
You never seen that before. They come up feisty, they come out to fight. I mean, young, he shake his head, he try everything. Gary Sober came up. Oh, they beat him.
With a bat?
Yeah. Then Alwari came on after to try to say, all I can do to me, all I just did to him. Let me say all here. Fazit say, well.
Fazit, oh God.
Yeah, Fazit said, no, you only talking the same thing all the time. It's the same thing. You have become very good at this. You have become very good at this.
You know that is true.
I want to respond. He said, no, let me hear this one.
You know that is true, you know. I think you're right. You know why I think you're right, in truth? Because when I did 2 shows yesterday, I will say I thoroughly enjoyed the first one because it was balanced and, you know, but because I made a commitment to CNC3, which I very much like Curtis Williams. So Curtis, you know that I respect you a lot and I read your articles all the time, religiously. But when I came there, the time they had the PNM, was just one PNM minister, and anyway, but on and on we started to say, but why did you tell us to come for a certain time? And they're still on and talking and saying to myself, but I was ready to go home because I said, what am I doing here? I mean, you tell me I rush off, leave one station, you know, change my clothes so I don't look like I was in the same station, do all of that. And then to sit down there with others, wondering what is heavens. I wasn't the only one, you know, most of us were saying to ourselves, when are we going to go on? And then when we came on, the COVID talk start. COVID.
Because
and
I wanted to tell you, respond to COVID.
Yeah. And then after they finished COVID, I took it. So I would think, and I feel now what you're saying to me makes more sense. It was almost an attack. It was on an attack mode. I have a kind of aggression that really took me by surprise. I said, maybe, I don't know, but it was the COVID talk, and they wanted to out-talk you. So after a while, to be very honest, I tuned out and I said, you know what? This is not the discussion. This is a platform. And I didn't come here to participate in a platform. I came here to have a mature discussion. And the only person really did an excellent job, as I told you, was Farley Augustine, who I guess they don't want to play with him because they don't want to play with Tobago. And poor Trevor Ramnaran, Curtis even had to say, well, you haven't said anything. You know what he said? He said, when it's in school, his teacher said, when you're not asked anything, don't say anything. It was that bad. So I think you're right, they planned.
And when you had to behave like that,
meeting.
When you had to behave like that, you are confessing, you are volunteering that know you did a horrible job, and you are trying to do something to deceive the people. You know what they tried to do? They wanted the talking point today to be about the behaviors of the ministers last night on the different programs. We should have been talking about what they said and not the budget. Because once we're not talking the budget, then I feel like cross the threshold. You understand that? So I feel let's stay on the budget. Which was the budget. Let's go back. I don't want to hear about those fellas. They came out, they presented their script, they tried their best. I think if that's what they were told to do, they did it. I don't know if it worked, but they did it.
I don't think it worked, you know, because everyone on the other show that I was on, everyone said the same thing. They said this is just the same thing over regurgitated. And part of one of the persons was a young person who I think was, you know, really saying, you know, this is just the same thing. And one of the persons who I will not mention, to be fair to that individual, he really couldn't muster up a good enough, you know, defense. I mean, I didn't think I don't think he himself felt that, well, it is what it is. So I think you're right that nobody was fooled though. That was it. TT,
Look
I
at
don't think people were fooled.
just look at part of the trade-off last night. Alwari, Fazir, and Minister of Public Utilities on this point.
Oh, they were on that on TV6.
Yeah. They had ministers coming on and going on.
Yeah, one after the other.
They had it lined up, I tell you. So Stoolies who came on, they had them outside there,
It's true.
I never saw that before. That they said, go in there, go and defend, go and take over, talk whatever, whether it makes sense or not. Take up time, run the clock down. How's the job?
It's true. You're right.
Don't let the professional stop. You go get vexed if you had to, run the clock down. That's
but guess what, Richard, I want to tell you, Richard,
yeah.
What it is, it didn't, you look at how you make them out. So you see how they waste the time?
They did. And
in
case people didn't make them out, we want to let them know what happened last night. In case they were confused. So they must know, listen, look, that is what they did. That's what they're up to. I want to tell you, they're up to smart manism. That's what they're up to. And we must come and unravel that plan and present it to the people so the people know better. You said it, the gig is up. Now hear this. Last night, Minister Utilities, Minister Local Government, Faris Al-Rari, and Fazir.
Fazir.
Yeah, Fazir. Yeah, what happened?
David, we appreciate your interventions, huh?
Thank you. Yeah,
and I'm not using the royal we meaning both of us.
Yeah.
Now, David, you see how she don't hesitate to try to lecture me? All right. Yeah, what happened last night now? The Prime Minister, Fazir said, hey, the government doesn't implement nothing. It's only old talk now. It's flopping, failure. Why should I believe in this? You know what I mean? He said, for example, look, meters. A minister get fired for trying to put meters to meter people's house and so on. So Minister of Public Utilities tried to respond. Faris decide, oh, no, I can run the clock down with that, He said, no, Minister, you don't talk. Let me talk. I was there. You weren't there. Imagine. Yes, Minister started, we wanted to make it pull it back up. I said, but what I see here?
I can't believe what you just said.
When you should allow the minister to say we had to say, and then you come and say, I understand, Mr. Gonzalez, whoever it is, and you make the point because you were there. He said, but no, let me deal with it. I was there, you were there.
You're joking.
I'm telling you, yeah. But the minister of utilities humbly gave way. He said, okay, true, it's all right. And
his place. His place.
Yeah, now, finish. So Faris now said after he fight again, the Prime Minister, they had to big up the fella. The Prime Minister said he did not want, hear this now, dry taps to be metered. So Fazir said, what do you mean? He didn't want dry taps to be metered. He said, you expect the Prime Minister to support, there's a problem with the line, no water coming, and they're going to meter that? He said, but there's a problem. I said, what problem? It's wrong to meter it. So that's why we didn't meter it. And then you tell the minister take over. The minister come in and say, yes. Now, there's a problem with that. I want, if you didn't hear anything we said, I want you all to hear this.
And what does the we mean? What does the we? No. Richard, what do you mean by we?
Where said we?
You just said, I want you all to hear what we had to say. If you hear anything, what we say.
Well, there's a we, yes, in case, yes. I'm talking for us. So
okay, all right. All right,
so
go ahead.
Karen, I thought we were in this together.
Yeah, we in it together.
All right, yeah. So hear this now. Strange. This is my analysis of it now.
Yeah.
Isn't it right to meter pipes that have no water?
Is it right or wrong? Mm-hmm.
Is it right or wrong?
No, it's not right to meter pipes that have no water. But
that's the point Faris was saying. But I'm saying that is wrong, Karen. You should meter it. What the meter would show? The meter would show, like my Daddy Mac. It had no water pass here. So you can't charge this house.
That's right.
When you don't put the meter, you know what happened? You tell them pay $100 for getting no water every month. So Farris told the country last night, the Prime Minister wanted no meter so people could be charged for water who didn't receive it. Now, I mean, how cruel could you be? Because the meter, what's the purpose of the meter?
But I thought the meter is to show how much water you are,
how much water you use.
Consumed. Yeah.
And if you use none, what the meter would reveal?
0.
No water pass here. You remember Shamfa Kojo?
Right. So
nobody lives here. Well, no water pass here. So you can't charge the people. So a month will pass. That's it. And the meter would reveal that. So the minister who resigned and they throw him out, he was right. I want my house metered because I'm paying every month. I don't use, I mean, we wait for rain.
I understand
you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes. And I said, this man was the general and he even understanding what he's saying.
Can I just, for clarity's sake, for those of us, now I'm saying I'm on the other side, for clarity, is that are we saying that persons who
are saying what you are about to say.
What we are saying is that even though we do not get water, we are still made to pay for the water that we do not
as it is now. Yes,
as it is now. But if you put in the meter would show that I got no water, therefore you cannot.
I don't have to pay.
I did not know. I know what we did not know, but we have to separate us down. We have to be separated now. What I did not know, I did not know, was
Rastafari.
Rastafari. I did not know that even if you did not get water, you still would charge for water. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I know that's terrible for me to say that on thing, but I really didn't realize that. But don't give me a lecture on television.
Some of the poor people in this country, like myself, where we grew up, having to tote water and live, and borrowing your neighbor hose to fill your bucket. We understand that, Karen. There are rich people in this country.
That is the people we are fighting for. Do you know that every single revolution that you have come from a middle class, whether it was Cuba, I'm not saying we have a revolution, but Castro, when you look at Castro, Toussaint Louverture, it was always that because they understood the plight and had a conscience, and that conscience caused them not to be part of the petite bourgeoisie who would sit down there and say the right words but not care about the poor people. And as you mentioned the issue of water, what I have been reliably informed, the issue of water, which I think the minister would know by now, they keep talking. How many times are you going to talk about restructuring? How many times? I have been hearing you talk about this. That is all they say, restructuring, Sept, restructuring. But my understanding is that when the Severn Trent, just before the PNM administration lost election, they had entered into an agreement with Severn Trent to provide them with steel pipes, and that every inch of Trinidad and Tobago had been surveyed, so they knew exactly where the pipes needed to be laid, what pipes needed to remove. They knew that, and they got Citibank to give them a loan, the government $100 million in order to replace, because the issue with water, as I understood it from you can well imagine, an impeccable source is transmission, the transmission of the water, and also availability. So what I understood, it was the intention to put in these pipes. Those pipes are now laying at the side of the road for over 10 years, including under this administration. So then the plan was then to build out other reservoirs. And what they were thinking of doing, although was the Desalcott model, where Desalcott, which is locally owned, would produce the water. You'd have it in a place where there's industry going on. WASA would sell, WASA would sell the water to they buy the water from the Salcott, and because the water would be of a certain standard that you need or should use for the industries, the police's industrial estate, those types of industries, they would pay a premium price, and that premium price would be enough for WASA to provide water at a very much lower rate, because the sale to the industrial estate covered the cost of the buying it from the Salcott. But what I have been also told is that these reservoirs that we have different sources of underground, we have different sources of water, but three things that are the major sticking points. One, indiscipline. Two, because we have transmission lines, if you are at the end of the transmission line and someone who's at the top or the middle has the water running, has the water, their tanks overflowing, I understand that was a big problem. By the time it reached the end of the line, there is no water, because the water, either low pressure or whatever reason, there's no water to be had. Another reason is that the water that may be available in certain communities, as I've cited before, like Point Fortin, the water is of a certain level of not salt. It's not. It's there's a particular language that they use, but it's not potable. But it's a particular language they use, and so the water has to come all the way from the Caroni Arena a dam, but it's the transmission line, and before it reaches the Point Fortin, it's stopping off along all those towns and cities, and between the leakages from the pipes. By the time it reaches its destination, that is where, so is the transporting, the transmission is a lot of the problem of the water problems in Trinidad. So I can't understand, and the metering, which they tried to, they locked up Robert, I know him quite well, but what's his last name? Hunt. That was so unfair to him, because that issue with the water rates, they took some issue that they had in Port of Spain, and water riots, which had nothing to do with what he was talking about. He was saying, if you use the water, pay for the water. And if you know you have to pay for the exact water you use, I am sure the water will reach to the end of the line. I am sure you will tell your children to turn off the tap and turn off the pipe and stop letting the water overrun over the tanks, because knowing that you're going to pay for the exact water you're using. Now, I was also told that laying the metering in the lines is not as simple as doing it with electricity. How they can meter electricity is a simpler procedure. Yes, as opposed to the metering for water, which means you have to dig up and so on. But at the end of the day, if you put in the new lines, there's all these pipes that sit at the side of the road. You have already done the study. It may be old now, but you have a good idea where the leakage is, and you start dealing with that and metering at the same time. It might help tremendously with the water problem. But of course, we're still where we were how many years ago? Are we still down to there?
No,
it's very unfair to Robert Lahunt to try to make him using him metering. They were fried. You know what happened? I think he had too much, but he had too much power. And inside a cabinet, don't feel anybody there is your friend, Don't feel anybody there is your friend, You understand?
Don't
doubt it. They might be your, what you call people who you speak to nicely. You're not their enemies, but don't make the mistake. They're not your enemies, but don't make the mistake to say they're your friend, because there's a man who once told me in politics, it's not what you do, it's what you see. And if you find yourself in a little clique and all you did is do this, the report going back, Tesheira was liming with so and so and so, and this is what and she was there with them. And next thing, poor Tesheira did not say a word, but Tesheira should not find herself in that little clique. So stay away. That's my advice to anybody in politics. Do your job, report to the prime minister, and don't get yourself involved in any cliques, because that same clique will bring you down because they want the power that you want to.
So it's a very selfish thing.
It's, what are you gonna say? What do you think politics is about? It's not a nursery. You're not playing Girl Guides or Boy Scouts. You know what I mean?
You want
It's
power.
not power for power's sake. Don't make it sound as bad as that. It can end up being like that.
It had to be part of that. Must be that.
Because go ahead.
Why else would in other words, you can't really even rely on your colleagues. You say if you're in a group in the cabinet and you nod your head, next thing all out.
I never was in a group. I was
But
never
you know
in
what
a
I mean?
group.
So,
Yeah, but it's true. But I deliberately was never in a group. I stay away. I say nobody calling my name.
So really, it has no friends in politics, none.
Well, what I will say is that this is what I will say. If you are there to do good and you want to do good, the only way that you can do good is you have to walk in the corridors of power. Until you are in there, you can't do good. And what I will say is that unfortunately, politics they might be nice people, but a lot of them have huge egos, they're narcissistic, and after a while they get very, very seduced by the trappings of power, and it can be very seductive to be, and you see the opposite of being in power, as some people have found out, and perhaps why some of them might say, well, anyway, let me not say that. Rethink their position.
And how I would know what you're going to say if you don't say it?
Rethink their position in this way. When you're outside of power, then you find out where body grow. You're sucking salt.
Yes.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So one day, yes, Madam Minister, yes, Mr. Minister, open the door, Minister. A gift for you, Minister, thing, a party, we'd like you to come to Minister, thing. Oh God, you start to think as me. They like not your position until you lose the job. Until you lose the job, and we move on to the next minister. And then you find out, hey, it wasn't me, it was the job. And then you go into a deep depression because nobody calling you, nobody taking you on. And I will give you a joke. I mean, it is at my expense, but you have to have a sense of humor over things. I mean, even though I was offended, I did laugh too. And it was meant to offend me, actually. With the Revenue Authority, we were going to, create a new entity. And I think we were more concerned about the custom officers and inland revenue, concerns, and tying that up with FIU and SORT and, creating and the DPP and all that wonderful thing. So they understood that's what was there, because some people sitting down in that cabinet can go and have a call, and even if they don't have a call, whoever has to know what was said in cabinet and needs to know it, it will be passed on. So they will be able to make an assessment of what the plans are. So at one time, when we lost the election, I was working in Barbados. And these people in customs were mad as hell with me still, real angry with me still. And I passing through. And the officer said to me, well, Mrs. Tesheira, you notice something? I still here. I still have my job. I still here. Unlike you. She said, in other words, that's the kind of thing, I mean, I have a sense of humor, and I didn't take it personally, I said she had a point. It's true, right? She said I have a job and I don't. But thank God I was able to find a job. But the point I'm making is, people are so afraid of the alternative of not being in that position, because it's not just a loss of power. They put you right down to the bottom of the barrel. You are nobody. Everybody they're afraid to talk to you. How many places I have gone, people who talk to me and were friendly with me, you notice them, trying to avoid making eye contact with you. Me, you know, because they don't want anybody to report, oh, I saw so-and-so talking to Tesheira. Go and tell the boss man. You know, I have experienced it myself. People who are your good friends, you could pick up the phone and call them. You can't call them anymore. They're frightened to talk to you.
But these people are so strange. And if tomorrow you're back in office, the same ones who were trying to pretend they didn't see you, they'd be calling you as though they were at your side all the time, you know.
Without, and they're not even wearing glasses.
Some of them, they're good, you know. I know we had to cut away. We have a rule here with all the shows. We had to cut away. We had to start wrapping up from about 5 to 6. Because they have other commitments. So
you got some instructions.
Yes, I've got some instructions. Yes.
I agree with that. I agree that is the right thing to do. I think we've touched on the things that I really would have liked to have seen: the road repair, leak asphalt, the issue with Coman.
No. They raised gas, Karen, again. The fifth time this man has touched fuel, the 5th time. We discussed this year before, is only one group of people going to pay the inflated price as a result of that now. Not just the gas, but the resulting inflationary pressures that going to have on goods and product and headline inflation in general. It's only the small man who is going to pay for it. Because as that goes up, and the Prime Minister knew by allowing that to happen. I see this budget as a double cross on the government, you know, in case the Prime Minister didn't see it first. This is a double cross on our party, you know.
Was he in the chamber for the thing?
I saw him after the chamber. They had him in a little room where he gave a few comments. I don't know if he was now coming.
Okay, so I don't know.
Time and they never put the camera on him. I don't know.
But that is true. They never put it on him. But we have said, so I don't know if he was there or not. But what I will say, Richard, which we have said, but maybe I did not reiterate it as strongly, the issue of paying these subsidies rather than taking these young men and women off of the subsidies and making them into micro and agro, not only agriculture, but agro-industry entrepreneurs, and to get them involved in the cultural tourism. We can have a whole discussion on that idea of agro-industry and also with the cultural tourism. That is what to grow the economy, to develop the economy, and to allow persons to come off of the subsidies and contribute to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. And that has not been done. It's a continuation of the same old. And as I said to you, he mentioned only fleetingly the micro and entrepreneurs. When people do not realize to be a micro entrepreneur, you can employ up to 26 to 25 people and be making 5 million a year. That is who a micro entrepreneur. So just in case you thought it was a pineapple chow man, I don't know what he qualifies for because he's not 6 people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think we all recognize
they were left out to suffer.
As usual.
They were left out, and they are in the majority of the population, their group in this country. And the budget was not for them. You know, I wait to see what people. Let me tell you what is sad about this budget.
What is sad?
Former PNM governments have done so many wonderful things for the purpose of benefiting the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You know, this team, because they couldn't live up to that standard and build on it, they are dismantling everything and coming up with a story to justify it. You remember early on this year they started talking about
story called COVID?
No, that too. But remember early on this year they started talking about the subsidy on cooking gas?
Yeah.
Yes.
You remember that? And we spoke about that. You saw what was the purpose of it?
LPG.
They started talking about it to make people feel they're going to do something. And then they came in the budget yesterday and declared we're not touching it. And you know, they clapped that behind. They clapped that something that their own PNM government for years put in place to the people. They want to make us feel it. Did us a favor
What about the diesel prices?
But they did us a favor by leaving it there. This is a strange group of people, and I'm saying the time has come to change the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago now, because we're going to suffer what we suffered in Tobago. The Tobagonians figured him out. They figured out what he's about and what he's capable of. We know today what he could do. How we know? We saw him over the last 7 years. And what he did over the last 7 years, he seemed to lack what it requires to change course.
And he surrounded himself with like-minded people.
Exactly.
Same thing, we're heading in the same place.
David, you're saying yes, like-minded people.
Yes,
who live in a little ivory tower of wealth, and who, if we allow them, if you think they show no respect to them now, well, you put them back there with that leadership, and you will eat the bread that the devil need.
If they couldn't fix, you're right. If they couldn't fix this economy in 7 years, which is what they're using to fix, they will not be able to fix it. If it is that they're just bad lucky alone, there's a good grounds to change them. I am saying to the Prime Minister, step down, and promote.
You have to go with his clique, though. You have to go with his clique.
We have to save the party, to keep the PNM in power. I call on the PNM people today again. Appoint Camille Regis Robinson.
No, Karen Nunez Tesheira.
Or appoint Karen Nunez Tesheira, as I'm going to call him. Appoint one of these persons to lead the.
Okay, I see your mic is muted.
David Mark, that's why we got on so well, eh?
Yes.
That's why you shut him up. I can't hear him again. I can't hear him again.
I don't know what happened there again.
You don't know. I didn't say you shutted him up. You say you shutted him up, eh? But that's why we get on. That's why David Mark and I get along very well. Ruben is putting us in our place. 2 minutes. Adios, sayonara, hasta la vista.
I call for new leadership. Let us get a new Prime Minister.
We need a woman, though. We need a woman.
Yes.
We have time. We're going to pay a serious price. We're going to pay a serious price in 2025. We need to fix this situation now. I call on my brothers and sisters in our party to have one of these three ladies appointed as Prime Minister so that we could change course. We need to change course.
Karen Nunez Tesheira, case closed.
I can't just take one and run.
David, Richard, you don't talk anymore. Richard, David, take off his mic. 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 Take off his mic.
One of the three you all, Karen. Listen,
anyway, I had a great time
now. We're running out of time.
You gotta go.
I had to set the clock again. But you know, it's the good news. I'd rather set it for Tuesday next week. It's for Monday. Tuesday is gone now.
And you know what, too?
Monday,
Can I just say, I really enjoyed David's interventions too. He really sits down there quietly and listens to us. But I hope you don't mind. I think he does add value to Richard and me. Our conversation.
Hey, David been doing that for years.
Don't take the win out of
David
my
is not one of the village idiots. They think he was there. Where is he, you know?
Oh.
He's one of them, you know?
We knows.
David is a forward-thinking person.
Yeah, we gotta go, folks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you next Monday.
Bye, everyone.
Yes, bye. Okay, we go straight to the news at 6. Sparkle is here with me.
Power 102 Digital.
Yeah.
We sound like home. Power 102 Digital.